In a recent poll I did in my community section here on YouTube, I asked my subscribers if I should make a video breaking down closing costs. 98% of you said a resounding yes. So if you would like to understand what closing costs entail as it relates to purchasing a house, like this video, share it with a friend, and keep watching. So for those who are new on the real estate scene, what is closing costs? Most of you, when you think about purchasing a house, you think that once you have the money to buy the house, say you're buying a $15 million house. Once you have the $15 million, you're good to go. So you're probably thinking that once you get your money from the bank as a loan, everything will be covered and you'll be ready to purchase your home. But that's not true. So let me explain what closing costs is. Closing costs are the expenses over and above the property's price that buyers and sellers usually incur to complete the sale of a real estate transaction. Here in Jamaica, there are 7 major fees that are put together to make up your closing costs. So generally, some realtors will not even give you an opportunity to look at a property if you don't have 10% of the sale price of that property. So 10%. Say for example, you're buying a house for $15 million. That means you're going to need at least $1.5 million cash. And this does not include the money that you're going to get from your financial provider. So you need to have some amount of savings. And that is why I'm always saying, if you plan to buy a home, you should have money in the bank. You should be saving up, okay? So let's look at the 7 fees that you should look out for that will form part of your closing costs, and I'm going to break them down for you. The first fee is stamp duty. Now, in times past, stamp duty was more expensive as it was a percentage of the cost of the value. However, the government gave us a little break and they are now charging 5,000 Jamaican dollars for the stamp duty. So this cost is borne equally between the vendor and the purchaser, which means that you'll actually just pay $2,500. That is kind of cool. So if you're looking to buy a property in Jamaica, we have one of the cheapest stamp duty. The second fee is the registration fee. Now, this is usually like 0.5% of the cost of the property, and it is also borne equally between the vendor and the purchaser. So let's say, for example, you wanted to buy a property for $14 million. Then that entire fee would add up to $70,000, but you are going to pay $35,000 since you'll only be paying half of the fee. The third fee is the attorney fee for the preparation of the sale agreement. Now, you have to remember that attorney's fees vary from attorney to attorney. So if you're using a more experienced attorney, obviously they might charge more. If you're using a more popular attorney, they might also charge more. But generally speaking, the fees vary from attorney to attorney, but it's usually within the range of $100,000. So you'll normally know the cost of that sale agreement after the document is drafted. So that is why it is important to save up before you get ready or even think about purchasing a house, because trust me, you're going to have to pay some amount of money. Additionally, this fee is borne by each party. So you will have to pay your attorney as the purchaser, and you will have to pay your attorney if you are the buyer. And generally, I do not recommend that persons use the same attorney, because if there is any fraud or anything that you need to find out, more than likely that attorney might be acting in one party's interest. So I suggest that you have your own independent attorney who is somebody totally different from what the other person is using. The fourth fee that you'll have is a miscellaneous fee for the drafting of letters to the utility companies. Usually, the person who is selling the property, the vendor, their attorney will draft these letters. So remember, you're purchasing a property and say the light bill is in the vendor's name. I'm sure you wouldn't want to necessarily purchase a property with that, because one, the person can owe money to the utility company, or generally speaking, why would you want to own a property with the bills in someone else's name unless they were renting or leasing from you? You generally want it in your name. So the vendor's attorney will draft these letters and will tell you the cost afterwards. It's usually about 30,000 Jamaican dollars for that. And of course, you know, anything having to do with a lawyer, the fees can vary from time to time, okay? But you still want to have money prepared for that. The fifth fee is the attorney fee, and this is usually between 3 to 5% of the purchase price for that property. This fee is borne by each party and will be determined by each party's attorney. So if you were buying a house for say $14 million, you'd be looking at a payment of about 300,000 Jamaican dollars, okay? So the other cost that you need to think about when you're purchasing a property is the valuation report. Now, generally speaking, all mortgaging institutions will ask you for a valuation report because they're not going to lend you $50 million to buy a property that really costs $15 million. So they will ask you to do a valuation report. That cost is borne solely by the purchaser, and the cost for it is determined by the appraisers, so the persons who are preparing the report. So that's another cost that you need to think about if you want to purchase a property in Jamaica. The final cost that you will incur is for your surveyor's ID report. Now, this is also required by the mortgaging institution, similar to the valuation report, and the cost is also determined by the appraisers and borne solely by the purchaser. So those were the 7 costs that you need to think about that make up your closing costs. Let's recap in case you missed anything. So there are 7 fees that you need to think about when you're purchasing a home in Jamaica. There is stamp duty, registration fee, an attorney fee that you'll have to pay your lawyer to draft the sale agreement, a miscellaneous expense letter fee for your utility companies, an attorney fee for conducting the sale, a valuation report, you'll have to pay for that, and also your surveyor ID report. So those are the 7 major fees that make up the closing costs. So I hope I made that easy to understand. If you missed why you'd have to pay any of the fees or what they are for, if you want a deeper explanation, I have time coded the video so you can go back to the part that you missed and watch it. There are very interesting videos also on the screen, so don't leave just yet. Just watch something else that you like. Remember to like the video, remember to comment, subscribe, tell a friend about the channel, and until next time, stay financially literate as we achieve the goal of home ownership together.